Expressionism captures an emotion, causing the viewer to experience that feeling, which differs from post-impressionistic pieces, like this, which calls the viewer to simply recognize scenery or landscape. Expressionism emerged in Germany, being portrayed by distorted forms and vivid colors. The reason for use of such bright colors in Expressionism is to demonstrate the artist's feelings rather than directly explaining it. Post-Impressionism art was built around focus and order, often involving more natural colors, which causes less of an emotional reaction from the viewer. Expressionism started in the early 1900s, when artists were yearning to express their emotions through art. Artists made their pieces very personal, trying to convey their own emotion and project it onto their audience, attempting to make them feel it as well. The artists of this movement were worried less about portraying reality in their art, but wanted to show their feelings. The figures in these works are usually distorted because that is how the artist stresses that emotion within the piece. The colors are involved to add a shocking effect to the works, and to draw the attention of the viewer. Expressionism and Post-Impressionism differ because where Expressionism artists attempts to convey emotions with bright colors and distorted figures, Post-Impressionism artists attempted to reproduce natural scenes, which is why the colors are more dull and subtle. The colors in Expressionism must be bright in order to stress the emotion to the audience, while the colors in Post-Impressionism should be naturalistic so that the audience may respect the painting as they would respect an outdoor nature scene. While Expressionism calls for the audience to feel, Post-Impressionism calls for the audience to observe, thus the need for different color tones. A good example of Expressionism and Post-Impressionism differing is the difference between Self-Portrait as a Soldier by Ernst Kirchner, an expressionistic work, and The White House at Night by Vincent van Gogh, a post-impressionistic work. In Kirchner's work, the frontmost subject appears with his hand cut off, displaying bloody flesh. The face of this figure is elongated, one of the eyes is larger than the other, the ears are exaggerated and pointed, and the lips are unnaturally plump. His use of bright reds, deep blues, and hints of pink make this piece even more shocking to the eye. During the time, 1915, Germany was getting involved in World War I. Kirchner is displaying his fears of the toll war could take on him after enlisting himself in the military as an attempt to avoid being drafted. Kirchner is trying to make the audience feel this fear with the grotesque and odd nature of his work. On the other hand, Van Gogh's piece uses greens, blues, tans, whites, blacks and browns. Van Gogh recently moved to the town of Alves-sur-Oise, and painted this to capture the environment. There is no deeper meaning or underlying message, and while the viewer can appreciate this natural painting, it doesn't actually provoke emotion. Another example of contrasting techniques between Expressionism and Post-Impressionism is seen between Composition 7 by Wassily Kandinsky, an expressionistic work, and At the Moulin Rouge by Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, a post-impressionistic work. Wassyly's work includes about every color one can think of, and doesn't portray actual physical objects. Wassily calls this work a composition, because he wants it to affect people the same way music does. The audience won't see it but instead feel it. During the time, 1913, there were a lot of feelings of turmoil in Germany with World War I about to start, so the swirling brush strokes and bright colors were meant to exemplify the worry of Germany, and even more specifically, Wassily. Toulouse-Lautrec's oil on canvas work depicts multiple people eating at tables. The colors this artist used are dark browns, blacks, and murky blues. He uses these colors to try and reveal the reality that this place was dark, mysterious, and unglamorous. He makes the people look uninteresting, using those dark colors. There is not much room to interpret this differently, and this painting doesn't really make you feel a certain way, it describes an area. Expressionism captures on emotion and reflects in onto the audience, making the piece more valuable to the viewer, as opposed to Post-Impressionism, which merely tells a story or shows a landscape. Expressionist artists hold more talent, in my opinion, in their ability to not only create a beautiful piece, but their ability to project an emotion for the audience to feel. The pieces from Expressionism are not just memories of objects and people from that time, but feelings that artists were experiencing during the early 1900s.